Welcome back to the Recovery Channel. I'm Brian Ariel, Treatment Director of the Outpatient Recovery Program with Applied Care Services. So the last few videos we covered brain, we covered physical, we covered environmental, and I alluded to we're going to cover genetic and some kind of like a case study on how this all works together. So when we think about genetics, we think about our predispositions for certain things. Predisposition for addiction, it's there, but it doesn't mean that that's guaranteed that you're going to form addiction. Like they've done studies on people's genes that says that certain people with certain markers within their DNA may be more prone to addiction than others, or stress, or environmental factors, or mental health issues. So when we do these genetic testings, which has been really cool, I mean, everybody does your Ancestry.com or your 23andMe or whatever you want to do to find out more about your ancestry and your DNA and how you're all connected in the world. But we can look at your DNA and find certain things that are there that may suggest, it's not a guarantee, but may suggest that you're more susceptible to heart disease, diabetes, addiction, mental health issues, physical problems, all those things. So when we talk about genetics, it's not a done, sealed deal, because there's still all that influence of everything else within ourselves, on our DNA, that can either feed or push us in one way or another. So genetics is not like a cut and dry thing. It just shows, and I probably have people disagree with me, and that's fine. I disagree with them. It's okay. There's more than enough space for everybody here. So when genetics, like I said, it's not a done, sealed deal. It just means we're more likely or have a higher risk factor for those things. Just because we have a higher risk factor doesn't mean it's inevitable. Nothing's inevitable, except for death, of course. So let's roll into kind of a case study. So this is a hard one. So you're born into a family in middle America, and they are working class, blue collar family, live in the suburbs. You're only child. Parents divorce. You then are at age like 14 or 15. You start experimenting with marijuana because it's cool. But not only that, you're really kind of broken that your parents are gone and you feel like it's your fault. And you get depressed and a little anxious, and you miss your parents being together. And so you found this answer, which might be marijuana or some other drug, and you start to use it because guess what? You feel better. However, school, the grades start slipping a little bit, and you start having a little bit more erratic behaviors around home. Start with petty crime, or just like not being a really calm, nice, interacting kind of person. And then we find other things. So life goes on. We're using weed to cope with our issues, and that would be one of those environmental factors that we're talking about, family. And then we have the physical issue of like we're depressed, we feel shame and guilt, we feel like it's our fault, and we internalize that and we carry that with us. Like, I am the reason why my parents got divorced. I am the reason why my father doesn't want to hang out with me, and I am the reason why my mother says mean things to him or me. So we take that on. So that's 14 to 16. We're experimenting with weed. Things are getting a little out of control. We have some minor issues with the law. Starts cutting school, skipping school, all that other stuff. We start doing things or have things done to us that we don't like. So maybe one time we're high or drunk or whatever, and we're passed out and find out that, maybe someone has done something to us that is horrifying. And we don't know for sure, but we're pretty sure because things don't feel right. And we find out that whatever we feel was the truth. And now we have to deal with that. So maybe weed's not enough. So now we have trauma on top of everything else going on. We've never talked to anybody about it because it's not something that we do in our family. So even though this horrifying thing you think happened, you really don't feel like you can tell anybody. So you put that in you and you carry that with you too. So all these factors lead us up to this point, and then we're maybe introduced to something else. Something a little bit more stronger, say like, I don't know, Percocet, Oxy, some opiate or something. And we start taking that and we're feeling really good. And we go on with our life like that. And maybe we decide to go to college or not college. But we start working and things are okay. Things are good. We're using a little bit to kind of just settle down things and whatnot. And then we start to use more and more because our physical or mental health is getting worse and worse because of things that happened all the way back to our parents splitting. Not saying it's their fault, but that's a factor. And so we're not really coping well, so we feel like we're using, you know what, maybe we'll get into a couple relationships too. And maybe, you know what, I'm not going to be like my parents. So when I have children, this is what I'm going to do. So then maybe we get married and everything is fine for a while. We have a kid, we have our children, everything is great. We're still using because we haven't dealt with that core issue all the way from the back and everything piled on to that, including our trauma. And then we become just like, our partner might say like, hey, wow, you're kind of out of control because, you're high all the time, or our work is suffering or lacking, and we're not really paying attention to our kids or relationships or important things because we're really focused on what we're escaping our pain. Maybe we even develop an eating disorder because we're not unhappy with our body. We're unhappy with just everything in our being is just so irritating to us that we just want to find that shade tree. So we increase our use. And maybe we graduate from heroin or an opiate and we really want to focus, so then we start to use a stimulant. Wonderful. We use probably so much that we cut work, we cut all ties with people, and we focus on our new career as trying to escape pain. And we do that for a while, and then our hurt happens even more when people start to reject us. Maybe we're rejected by, our parents have already rejected, but now our significant other is rejecting us because they don't like what we're doing or what we've become, and you're just trying to, cope with life and get out of pain. And maybe our kids have even said, I'm done with you. I can't do this anymore. You're out of control. And they cut us off. And then eventually we just are like, well, no one loves me here, so I might as well leave. Or they just kick us out, or we lose everything, and then we could end up homeless on the street. And now we have all these things that we're carrying with us, and what's the point, right? We get to this point of what's the point? I might as well just, this is what my life is. I'm just going to use, and that'll be it. Until it's not. Until you can't use enough. So here maybe we are 10 or 20 years removed from the first incident. We've lost everything. We're chronically addicted. We're kind of just scrounging and living under couch hopping or living under a bridge or shelter to shelter, have no food, have no money, have no access to things, and we're just kind of existing, just barely existing for our next fix or our next high. And along the way, there's multiple traumas that are happening to us, right? We become very defensive and very primitive in our behavior and our actions because we're just trying to survive the next 24 hours. And then we get picked up. We might go to jail a few times and they recommend treatment, and we go in and do an assessment and those things, and we're really not bought into it because I don't see how my life could change or how it could get any better, or what's the point in this if I just have to go through and deal with my pain or acknowledge my pain or do those things. But maybe we have no choice. We're put into treatment. And we get the help and when finally something might click, and we go, wow, you know what? You're right, I'm just done. I can't do this anymore. I'm going to kill myself. This is over. I'm going to die if I keep on using. This is slow death. So then we accept that we have issues. We accept that we have pain. We accept we have traumas, and we start to peel back and work through those things. And then we enter into initial sobriety, and we're holding it together day by day, hour by hour. And that hour and hour and that day by day turns into weeks, and the weeks turn into months, and the months turn into years. And then we start to reclaim or to rebuild our life on the other side with trying to reconcile and reestablish relationships, trying to have sense and purpose going forward in our life and not living in a pit of despair. That's the cycle of one kind of amalgamation of a lot of people that I've dealt with over the last 13 or 14 years. It's not always how it goes. Some get to that point of where they die. Some get to the point of where they reclaim everything and they have a wonderful, beautiful life. But those factors that we talked about in the last few videos were all present in this one case that I brought to you today. There is hope, there is peace, and there is another side to this where you're at right now. If you're struggling and you're watching this right now, know that there's hope and then there's peace, and that you can come out of this. I came out of it. I know hundreds of people that came out of this. And this is really personal to me because people are hurting. If you have a loved one, I know it's hard to watch your people go through this. It's hard to feel like whatever you do, it's the wrong thing. Just love them. Encourage them. Be with them. Take them to wherever they need to go. Help them. Unconditionally love them because that's what they need. Because they're in so much pain. You're in pain too. And so I mean, maybe you need to talk to somebody too. Which is really, really personal for me. And so, this is Brian Ariel with the Outpatient Recovery Program, Applied Care Services. Have a good one.